The first thing I saw was the smell, like lemon soap and cigarettes, a small, obscene perfume that didn't belong in my kitchen at 7 in the morning. I stood at the sink with a coffee cup cooling in my hand and watched him laugh on the tablet. His face lit from below by some private glow, and something in my chest unclenched and fell out like a dropped glass. He looked up, still smiling, and for a second I thought it was possible I'd misread everything. Tired eyes, a joke, a forwarded video. Then the sound on the screen clicked. A voice I knew too well, low and breathy, softer than the way our son said, "Dinner's ready." The babysitter's hair caught the light. Her hand was on his arm. He put his head against hers the way people do when they want the world to stop asking questions. The room spun with the tilt of their bodies. I had spent months learning his rhythms. I knew the exact cadence of his guilt, the little rituals he used to bury it. An extra hour at work, a louder laugh, the way he rinsed plates with clinical speed. I had forgiven him before for forgetting anniversaries and for 100 small cruelties that felt manageable because they were small. But the tablet on my counter turned the atmosphere into a thing with edges. Betrayal had a sound, and it sounded like someone whispering my name into a stranger's mouth. When he came into the kitchen, he smelled like the same lemon soap and an aftertaste of smoke on his collar. "You're awake," he said, as if the world still belonged to the two of us and the tablet had been a broken appliance. "I saw," I said. The words felt foreign, like I was reading from someone else's script. He looked at the screen, then at me, and the color drained from his face in a way that made me think of snow on a distant roof. "It's not what you think." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to build a scaffolding of explanations. A misclick, a rehearsal, a lullaby session taken out of context. My narrator's brain, the one that had arranged our mortgage and ironed his ties, started listing reasons. She's young, she's lonely. He's midlife and soft for flattery. But even that ledger of mitigating conditions had a margin stained with a single stabbing certainty. Hands on arms, heads leaning together, the intimacy of unhurried time. The betrayal had the patient architecture of repetition. This wasn't a mistake, it was a leaning in. He reached for my hand and his fingers trembled. "I didn't." His voice fractured. Fear and shame warred in his face. I realized then that guilt could be a domestic thing. It could sit in the corner like a chair, familiar in its ugliness. "Our son is at school," I said. Saying his name made my throat close. There were other lies I could imagine. "I'm not his father, he isn't who you think," but I kept it to fact. The boy was at school. The babysitter, Anna, came over after being hired secondhand through a neighbor. She made pancakes and homework tolerable and had, in 2 months, folded into our lives with the obedient ease of a rented scarf. He swallowed. We were talking. It just happened. The excuse was a thin blanket. The blank spaces in his sentence had reasons that were not my business to fill, and yet I felt every one of them like a bruise. I called Anna. Her voice on the phone was bright, almost rehearsed. "Oh, Mrs. Carter, it's so early." I told her I needed to hear the story she hadn't yet lived. She arrived within 20 minutes, breathless with a worry that looked suspiciously like indignation. Up close, she smelled like lemon and something else, the same cigarette tang. She didn't meet my eyes. Her hands fiddled with the strap of her bag. There was a bruise of makeup under them, the way someone presses a thumb into a sore place. Sitting across from her, I watched the layers peel away. She wasn't the cartoon of villainy I'd constructed. She was early 20s and brittle with the hunger of someone learning how to be relied upon. "He made me tea," she said. "We talked about my dad. He listened. He said things no one else does." It felt safe. Her voice quivered. "I didn't mean." The moral landscape shifted beneath me. Love and want and loneliness parceled out in different proportions for each of us. He had been father and husband and anchor. To her he was a listener, a warmth in the small hours. There was culpability lodged like a splinter in every heart. None of it absolved the betrayal. "Did he touch you?" The question trembled out of me, and when she nodded the house seemed to inhale. She wasn't a child and he wasn't some monstrous caricature. He was a man who let his hands find a harbor where no one had given permission. She had let them. She had, in different language, sought comfort the way people do when they are raw. I wanted to rage. I wanted to dismantle him with the precision of a surgeon. Instead, I catalogued dates, times, the texture of their touches. My inner voice, previously a mediator, became an evidence logger. I thought of the small red flags I'd passed off. The extra texts, the late nights, the way he volunteered to pick up our son and then called to say traffic. Each was a brushstroke in a larger portrait I had been afraid to see. Why? I asked the man I had loved into the shape he was. He stared at his hands, the knuckles white. Because she listened, he said. Because I forgot how to say things to you without shouting. Because I was selfish. It was honest, and it was cowardly, and it was everything I needed to hate him for, and to ache for. The shock that had opened me in the kitchen 8 minutes earlier had curdled into an ache wide and dull as winter. I thought of our son, of the small ways this would ripple into his days. The sound of silence at our dinner table, the unevenness of story time when one of us was absent. I thought of the years we'd built, the plans, the inside jokes, the folded laundry. A betrayal, I realized, isn't a single act. It is an additional shore to which the rest of your life must either swim or be left behind. In the end, the twist was not cinematic in the way movies stage twists. It was quieter. Anna didn't leave furious or ashamed. She left with a look that was half apology and half something I couldn't name, a recognition that she had been used as bridge and then as blight. When the door shut behind her, the house felt like a place that had been painted new but whose smell would never be the same. He sat at the table and said, "I want to fix this." His words were a child's plea. I looked at him and saw the man I once trusted and the stranger he'd become in a handful of nights. The choice spread before me like a line of small, dangerous stepping stones. Forgive, confront, leave, stay. Each path would ask me to trade pieces of myself. I picked up my coffee, drank the cold dregs, and let the bitterness settle. "You already fixed something," I said. "You broke the story I thought I was living." My voice was steady in a way that felt alien. There would be meetings, counseling, apologies that would sound like songs until their novelty wore off. There would be nights when denial rose like fever, and others when guilt would be a hard, useful pain. Outside, the day went on, indifferent to the wreckage under our roof. The sun lit the lemon tree in the yard, and for an absurd instant its green seemed obscene. I went to the window and watched our son cross the street from school, backpack bobbing, because life asked nothing of him but the small, essential fact of being a child. Inside, the rest of us would have to reckon with adult ruin, with the knowledge that love can be as fragile as glass and as dangerous when dropped.